So first and foremost, welcome tonight. Tonight's topic is how to do college research. If you don't know us, we're Quad Education. Quad Education is a college admissions consulting firm with 15 plus years of experience helping students realize their dreams of attending the country's top institutions. Our mission is to make higher education more accessible for students and empower them to take charge of their college journeys. We strive to break down barriers and open possibilities for all, and of course, get you into your dream school. Like I said, tonight's topic is how to do college research. We have two fantastic speakers for you tonight who have a ton of great knowledge to share, and I'll introduce them in a bit. Just before we really get started, I just want to let everyone know that we do have a couple of housekeeping rules. We're looking to run this webinar about 45 minutes. 30 minutes will be dedicated to the actual presentation, and then we also have a question and answer period, which is where you get involved. So as you can see in your top corner, you have a chat and Q&A. So we encourage you to leave your questions in there, and our expert panelists will get back to you at the end of our presentation. As well, this webinar is recorded, so you will get a recording in your email within the next 2 to 3 days. Well, that's it for me. Let me just get us going here. So, quick agenda, introductions, why college research matters, what to look for during your search, how to decide which factors are most important to you, where to find up-to-date information, using college rankings, and then, of course, the Q&A. And the two lovely speakers you see on your screen. So we have Jennifer, an admissions counselor from Harvard University, and Marina, an admissions counselor from the University of Pennsylvania. So, ladies, did you want to say a little bit more about yourselves? I know I definitely did not do it justice. You two are incredible, hardworking ladies with so much to share. Jennifer, did you want to go first and just say a bit about yourself and then take it from here?
Sure,
Marina,
absolutely.
you as well.
Yes, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Jennifer, and I've been with Quad now for several years, helping students get into their dream colleges and universities. Prior, I was director of college guidance at a secondary school in my home state of Maryland. And prior to that, directed a range of study abroad programs for institutions such as WashU and St. Louis and others. I did my undergraduate studies at Harvard, and I did my graduate work in Tokyo, Japan.
Marina, did you want to say something about yourself?
Sure, sounds good. I'm so intrigued. I didn't know you had done the time in Japan. That's fun. Well, my name is Marina. I'm a counselor as well, Quad, and my other kind of like professional background is in the marketing and research space. I did my undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania at the Wharton School of Business. I did a business program there, studied finance and management, did some study abroad time, highly recommend. And then went on to do my graduate degree at the University of Chicago at the Booth School of Business. So that's kind of where my professional career has been, and love helping students kind of figure out what the right path is for them and help them figure out how to make it come to life. So really excited to speak with y'all tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Jennifer, did you want to start off and sort of share with us why college research matters?
Yes, absolutely. So it's vital that you do a lot of studying up and independently learn about where you're going to be spending the next 4 years of your life after you finish high school. We want you to consider, and we'll be talking this evening about academic, personal, and career goals. And that takes time, and it takes reflection. It often takes conversation with those who know you best. We here at Quad can help you in that process, and we also bring in supportive family and friends, teachers, mentors, and others as you begin this process of exploration. We really want to make sure that you are going to identify institutions that are a great fit for you in all of these areas so that you can have a really successful and enjoyable undergraduate experience.
So I can touch on a little bit of what we should be looking for during the search. I think the whole college consideration application process involves a lot of self-reflection, and it might sound kind of cheesy or silly, but really that's such a beneficial part of this experience, is really figuring out what is interesting to you, what are your goals, and goals can change over time for sure, especially, you know, you're in high school, you have a lot of opportunity to change those goals over time. But a great place to start is to reflect on what you do consider to be your personal goals, what you consider to be your academic goals. Are there careers that you're interested in? And maybe you don't have to be like 100% committed to a career, but is there a career that feels like it's worth exploring to you? Is there something that you really love to do in school and it doesn't feel like work? Is there, on the other hand, something that you want to like go ahead with process of elimination and say, you know, this is not for me? Those are things that you really want to start thinking about during this process. Highly encourage like some journaling as you go through high school, because sometimes it can be hard to kind of keep track of all the different things that you try. But part of this process, and really like a great place to start, is through self-reflection and thinking about what works for you, what makes you happy, what doesn't. You're going to want to think about, you know, what kind of degree do you want to pursue? Are you interested in liberal arts, or do you want something that is more like career focused for a specific type of profession? You know, that was something that I thought about and very much went through like process of elimination of like, I definitely don't want to be a doctor because I'm scared of blood. I definitely don't want to do this. I definitely don't want to do that. But, oh, this seems kind of interesting. And those are things that can help you to figure out what to explore and what to learn more about in terms of like the type of degree and even the specific major that you might want to pursue, and even some of the specific types of programs that could be valuable for you. We can go ahead to the next slide.
And as you think about these various factors that are going to inform and flesh out your college experience, we suggest the following. When you're considering the academic programs, you want to look at the range of various academic opportunities that are offered by colleges and universities that you're interested in. That's kind of an obvious one, right? You're going to be studying for a BA or a BS degree. We want you to be, you know, having a general understanding of the curriculum that's offered in those, in the majors that you might be interested in. And you might know exactly what you want to do, and you might not. And it's okay if you are still figuring it out. The first year of an undergraduate education, outside of a few very specific disciplines in engineering, in education, if you're aiming for a teaching degree, it's designed to be flexible in that first year. And you get to explore some different disciplines that you might not have ever heard of before. You certainly might not have studied before. Anthropology, sociology, public policy, all kinds of different things. So while we do encourage you to have an idea of the direction you're heading in, and applaud you if you know exactly what that direction is going to be in high school, also I just want to reassure those of you who might still be on the journey of deciding your major that that's perfectly okay. When I was an undergraduate, I changed my major, I don't even know how, maybe 3 or 4 times, and finally decided on the one that was right for me, with the support of my advisors who encouraged me to stick with the plan so that I could pursue my graduate work as well, that I had developed, you know, fields of interest along the way. But just realize that as you're doing this research at your stage of life in high school, that you can have a plan that you're going forward with, and also some flexibility. Location is very big for some students. You know that you want a change of pace. When I was looking at schools, I knew that I needed to break from the Mid-Atlantic. And so I got that. And that was one criteria that I used in my search. It wasn't the be-all, end-all, but I knew some regions of the country that were going to be just a little bit too far for me, and some regions of the country that were appealing to me. So keep that in mind, as well as the location being, is it an urban school? Is it a suburban environment? Is this a very rural environment? What do you need to be happy and thrive during your undergraduate years? There's also going to be some difference in the range of internship and employment opportunities. that are offered in those various locations. If you know that you want to base your life after school on one coast or another, or near an urban area in the middle of the country, it makes a lot of sense to look at educational institutions in those areas. And then the third factor that we encourage you to consider is this range of factors that go into campus culture. So what are the supports that are available for diverse student body, however that pertains to you? What kinds of activities and clubs are important to you? What's been meaningful to you in your high school career? What do you want to continue in college? Or what do you want to explore that you haven't had the chance to do in high school? And make sure that those opportunities are offered to you. Then also, if you need certain learning supports, if you know that you have a learning difference that needs accommodation, if you know that you're going in a certain direction and you want career counseling in that field, those are also very important things to decide and evaluate early on. When I did my study abroad advising work at the colleges that I worked at, I would often have students come in and say, well, my best friend is going to go to Prague, and so I want to go to Prague too. And we had to sit down and unpack what was going to work for the individual student, because just because it's right for a good friend of yours doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best choice for you. So we really want you to carefully reflect on your own goals and priorities in this process.
Once you've kind of started that process of thinking about the factors that are important to you, it's important then to actually prioritize them, right? Because you can't, I mean, in an ideal world, you get everything, but you have to be realistic about saying, okay, which of this stuff is a must-have, it's a deal breaker, and which of it is a nice-to-have, and it would be a bonus. And really think about how you're going to weigh those things and make some trade-offs. So just, again, like being very honest with yourself and thinking about why something isn't interesting to you and why maybe something else is less important, and being cognizant of like the external pressure that you might be getting too, right? From, like we just talked about, friends want to do X, Y, Z. That doesn't mean that's necessarily right for you. Parents may insist on like ABC, and those are things to consider. They are your parents, but also things to just like have a good, clear conversation about what is important to you, what's important to your parents, what are some good compromises potentially, and how to think about all of the values that you have as you think about this process. And one thing that I really want to highlight is that it's important to be open-minded during this process. I think sometimes people can come in saying, these are the only 3 schools that I want to go to, and if I don't get into them, like my life is over, or something very dramatic like that. And the reality is that I truly believe that no matter where you go to school, or if you do something else for a gap year, or even choose some kind of alternative, as long as you have thought it through and go into it with an open mind and really try your best to get the most out of it, you're going to have an amazing experience. And I'll just highlight, in my professional career outside of counseling for the college process, I worked in management consulting and marketing and big tech firms. The people that I work with have gone to every college, under the sun. Some of them have not gone to college. Some of them have gone to college in the US. Others have gone to college internationally. I mean, there is a little bit of everything. The important thing is that you find something that you're interested in and that you do your best and have an open mind about it. And that's really important during this process too. Excuse me. Because there are going to be schools that you come across that you may not have even really heard of, but something really stands out to you about them, or something really connects you to them. And you should really pursue that and figure out, what is that? Something about this school speaks to me. Let me figure out what it is. That might be really important and valuable to me. So just encourage people to come into the process with an open mind. And, to make sure that it's relevant to your individual college experience. This is a process where it's very easy to get FOMO and see, my two best friends are going to the West Coast, or they're looking at, engineering programs or whatever. You really have to be honest with yourself about what is interesting to you. Because the reality is that everybody's going to change their mind too, so you can't follow in that sense. Whether it's changing your major in college, whether it's going in undecided and then kind of exploring, or whether it's after you graduate from college, changing your career 4 times, like all of these things happen to people. So you really have to try to be honest with yourself and try to listen to yourself and your reactions to the different things that you're coming across, so that you can think honestly and prioritize your preferences. Anything to add?
Nope, that was wonderful. So as you're thinking about how to decide which factors are most important to you, we want to encourage you to, number one, take the time and allocate that time to reflect on your own priorities and preferences regarding what you are hoping to get out of your college experience. Like so many things in life, you get out of it what you put into it, right? So it's all well and good to look at rankings. There are lots of different ones out there, not just the US News and World Report ones that come out every year. But the rankings aren't they don't reflect your priorities. They reflect someone else's priorities. So we don't want you to just come in and say, I want to apply to the top, give me the top 20 schools. That's what's most important to me. We want you to be able to articulate why a certain institution in the top 20 is a great fit for you. And number one, that's just an important thing in life to be able to do. Number two, you're going to need to do that in your college essays. So it's really crucial that you have a thorough understanding of the institution and how it fits with you and how you fit with the institution. So we're going to encourage you, again, to evaluate those factors that align with your personal and academic goals, while keeping in mind your values and interests and long-term aspirations, that you want to imagine yourself as an alum of this institution 20, 30 years out and still feeling a connection to the school that you attended and still kind of benefiting from that connection with the institution and with others that have attended there.
And once you've done that, you need to start narrowing it down, because applying to schools is neither free in the sense of money or time. Money-wise, that's obvious, application fees, but time too, right? Like you can't just send the same application to every school. Yes, there are certain things that you're going to use over and over and maybe make small tweaks too. But you do really have to research each of the schools and be able to explain clearly why that school is a good fit for you. So it's important to have a good list that you're comfortable with that is not overwhelming. You want to take a look, make a list of the colleges that meet your criteria, the preferences and the goals and everything that you've thought through during your process of self-reflection, and then figure out what is the best system for comparing these. And I'm sure there are a lot of list makers in this audience. There are probably a lot of people that are very good at spreadsheets and spreadsheet everything out. And then there are going to be people that are like spreadsheet phobic. I do not want to touch a spreadsheet, and that's okay too, right? There are a lot of different ways to do this. Think about what is the best for you. Are you like a Post-it person? I'm going to put it all over my wall. Am I going to cut out pictures? Am I going to, write a page about each one? Figure out what works for you. You don't have to be a spreadsheet person, but you do have to figure out how to compare these in a way that makes sense to you and makes sense with the way that your brain functions. So very important to do that process and really think about those trade-offs as you do it. And then finally, really highly recommend taking advantage of campus visits if it's possible. If you can't take advantage of a real physical campus visit, which can be very difficult, think about figuring out ways to attend a virtual tour. The reason this is really important is because what you see on a website is very different from what you might feel in person, what you might see in person, the people that you might talk to in person who will tell you about their true experience. And so to the best of your ability, try to get that personal interaction, that personal feel for a college campus and a college community. And it's okay if you can't do it in person. And even if you do it in person, make sure you're really taking advantage of it, right? Having a college visit does not mean I'm going to drive to this college campus, I'm going to walk around it, and I'm going to drive right back home. Like, take advantage of that time if you can. Try to go to a class, walk inside of the buildings, see if someone will talk to you. Go to the on-campus like restaurants. You don't have to eat there or anything, but check it out. See what the students are doing. Figure out kind of all the different spots. Really like try to immerse yourself to see if you can imagine yourself there. And if you can't do it in that, very like literal way of visiting the college campus, try to do it through a virtual tour. Try to do it by figuring out other students who have graduated from your high school who've had the opportunity to go to that school and reach out to them and try to talk to them and get a sense for what that's like. And even if you aren't able to travel, try to figure out what are some of the schools that are in your area that you could go to and get a little bit of a sense for what they're like, right? So I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. If I can't go out and visit, West Coast and East Coast, I can still go see what Northwestern looks like. I can go see what the University of Chicago looks like. Maybe I can drive down to Champaign. Those are more accessible to me and can give me a really good feel of the different types of college campuses. So highly recommend doing that if you can.
And then we encourage you to seek guidance from those who know you best. As I said earlier, those are going to be your peers, your family, your advisors, and counselors. Teachers are a great resource as well. And your school may be one that's enormous. It's got a lot of students there and not a robust college guidance staff. And so the guidance counselors or your college guidance counselor might not know you very well. They might have a lot of students that they're trying to deal with. And they might be able to give you some general advice, but might not be really tailored to you. And so in those kinds of larger school settings, we really encourage you to work with older student peers and teachers that you know well and that know you to be able to help you kind of bounce some ideas around. As Marina was saying, you can avail yourself of a lot of in-person visits and resources right near you. One of the main takeaways that we want you to have from those kinds of visits is, how do I feel about a small school? How do I feel about a large school or a mid-sized school? You can definitely get a sense of the size of the campus and the size of the student body by an in-person visit, even if you're not considering applying to that particular campus. And we also definitely, when I'm working with my students, I want my students who are applying for an early decision school in November to have visited that campus while there are students there and teachers there. So really to get a sense of what it feels like with people there. The building tour in the summer, how much different is that really than a virtual tour? There's a range of opinions on that, but you shouldn't feel pressured to visit each and every school that you're going to be applying to. Definitely don't feel kind of stressed out about that. You may know from different activities that you've been in, or perhaps siblings or siblings' friends, other connections that you know of, maybe a cousin who's already a college student somewhere, and those are definitely people that you should be interacting with as much as they'll let you, and get their ideas and experiences. Again, not that what works for them is going to work for you, but just to get some real firsthand information that can be helpful to you in making your own decisions. And lastly, college fairs and info sessions at your schools and various workshops that are offered in your area are also great opportunities for you to get a good direction in your college search.
That Jenna was talking about too are just like good life skills, right? Like reaching out to people, trying to make connections, getting over the fear of like the cold call. These are not cold calls, they're semi-warm, but sorry about that background noise, clearly bath time. But let's see, on to the next slide, we can talk about where to actually start finding that up-to-date, reliable information. And the college's website is, obviously a really good place to start. It's definitely not the ending point, but it's a good place to start, to see what kinds of programs are available, to see what they highlight, to see how they want to put, them present themselves to the world in terms of their admissions process, academics, what's happening on campus. You can also learn a lot about financial aid, which is something that I also really encourage people to think about because college is not cheap, and you want to figure out what is the right path for you so that you're getting a good education and also coming away with a plan for how you're going to pay for that in a way that doesn't feel too overwhelming. And the admissions information section is going to have a lot of information that you should probably start capturing. So hopefully, even if you're not a spreadsheet person, you kind of just figure this out and put it in there in your notebook or whatnot so that you have a good sense of what the requirements are. Are you going to need to take the SAT or a different standardized test? When are the deadlines? Do they have early decision or early action? Is there anything, if you're interested in a specific type of program, are there specific classes that you need to have taken to apply? Things like that, you'll want to make sure that you're keeping track of. And as you get even closer to starting the process of putting together your application packets, you'll want to be looking at what their essays are, which essays overlap with other schools, which essays are really specific to that school. And kind of pairing those two things, right? Like if there's an essay that feels very specific to that school, think about that as you look through their website. Are there any clues that they're kind of giving you in terms of what is a school value that they're looking for?
And then for your academics, for the majors, minors, concentrations that you might be interested in, there's going to be a wealth of information that's available to you online, where we do encourage you to read up on the faculty who are doing research in the areas that you're interested in. Look at the curriculum for each major as kind of a roadmap for your next 4 years of education after high school to get an understanding of, well, how is this field different from this field, right? There's environmental studies, there's environmental science, there's environmental engineering. How are those things similar and how are they different? Where are you going to be happiest? There are a ton of different majors under the umbrella of computer science, under a variety of STEM fields. Biology has many, many, many subfields, and it's going to be to your advantage to identify some of those areas that you're most interested in and look at perhaps some niche majors that you can align with. Then also for campus life, for student resources, similarly, there's a wealth of information from the Career Center on study abroad programs, on student organizations, and a variety of extracurricular activities, how you might be able to explore a variety of career paths through internships in the summer, and just kind of getting a sense of what does it feel like to be a student there. There are a lot of student interviews that you can look at online where current students are sharing their own academic and extracurricular pursuits. And it can be very helpful to listen to students who are just a few years older than you and get a sense of what their experiences have been like at the universities that you're considering.
Yeah, and financial aid, as we talked about, is something that you should be thinking about. Scholarships, to the best of your ability, it is going to help you to find ways to support paying for school, whether that's through scholarships, grants, loans, work study programs. It's actually like very exciting and impressive, a lot of the opportunities that are available on campuses, and some of them can be really helpful even in terms of helping you figure out what you might want to do professionally. When I was at Penn, I had the opportunity through a work study program to have a job at the law school, which was very valuable because I got to see all the law school students and kind of what that life looked like. And it was lovely and simultaneously discouraging. So just look out for all those opportunities. There's a lot more available than you could even imagine. You could work at a law school or at a graduate school. You could work in your campus building. They're great programs to learn about. And there might be specific opportunities for you to apply for scholarships, grants that have something to do with like a little bit of your background. So you want to just be very cognizant of those opportunities. And this is something that you want to do early on and also kind of keep doing, because sometimes new things surface. And even once you're at a school, your second year, your third year, there are other scholarships that become available to upperclassmen. So something to start doing now so that you can kind of get into the habit of being aware of those things. And then you can also find information on the website about campus tours, virtual events. A lot of schools will host different information sessions. They'll host webinars that you can attend and kind of get like a sense on a specific topic. It might be, there might be different ones for different like areas of the school, or one that's just more admissions focused, but definitely take advantage of those. If for nothing else, then to see what kinds of questions people ask. That can be very helpful. And I would suggest as you're going through this process and you're going to either a campus tour, an open house, or doing something online, take notes about what you're learning, but also take notes about the types of questions other students are asking. I have to say, like, one of my biggest sad feelings during the process of college applications and all of that is when I did a lot of alumni interviewing for Penn and for the University of Chicago. And it just makes me so sad when at the end of the interview I ask, do you have any questions for me? And they will say no, or they'll ask one question. They'll ask one like super general question and then kind of say like, I don't have any questions. And I get it, because that was me, like not being prepared many, many years ago, thinking, I want to be respectful of this person's time. But you want to ask the questions, you want to like show that you're interested, and it can be hard to think of good questions. So taking notes from these types of interactions where you're seeing other students can be a nice source of inspiration too throughout the process.
And then our last topic before we move into Q&A is how to think about using college rankings and guides. So as I mentioned earlier, these can be helpful as you're doing research to provide a snapshot and a basic overview of various factors that are being evaluated in that particular ranking subsystem. You are going to get some insights into academic quality, how satisfied students are with their experience, where alumni have gone on to in their careers after graduating from the school. And so it will allow you to get some comparative data, which can be helpful as kind of an objective outside mirror on your own reflections that we're encouraging you to engage in. There are guides such as the FISC guide, FISKE, that are a little bit more narrative in focus. They aim to provide an overview of each institution. They don't rank per se. You're not going to find the top 10 list of whatever. There's the Times Higher Education rankings that come out every year, as well as the one that we're most familiar with, the US News rankings. So with that, I think we're going to move into Q&A.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that wonderful, wonderful presentation. We have quite a few questions in here. So somebody has been asking, Stacy has been asking about the rankings, the US News College ranking. Just spoke a little bit about that. Hopefully that little bit we just had on the news rankings, helped out, Stacy. Let's see, we have a couple more. Let's start at the top. What factors do you see that students and families often overlook or might not think about? And I guess this question is in regards to just this college process. And thanks for the great question, Janice. I'll open the floor to both of you ladies to answer this.
I can take a pass, but I'd love for you to build on it. I think one of the factors that I see students and families often overlook is really that idea of fit, and understanding more of the nuances of each school. I often see, I just want like the top 4 in this major, or, the top 5 in this part of the country. And rankings are helpful and valuable and important. But I think going beyond that and understanding fit is really important, because whether or not you fit at a school is a very critical factor in determining whether you actually succeed there. Like there are students that I know that went to, a great state school and just flourished there because that was the right environment for them. And because that was the right environment for them, they were then able to get the best jobs, do well in their jobs, because they had developed the confidence that they needed. And, on the other hand, you see maybe someone who went to a very prestigious Ivy League institution, but it wasn't the right fit for them, and it just brought them down, and they lost their confidence, and then they weren't able to be successful career-wise. So I think looking at those things of fit, what is my personality, what kind of classes am I most successful in, what do I need in terms of support to be able to do my best, is just really important. That's
Mm-hmm. And some other factors that I see sometimes don't register with students as much as I think they probably should is the quality of the undergraduate interaction with faculty. So, who's actually doing the teaching of the classes where students are spending their time. I loved my education at Harvard. As an undergraduate, my faculty were mostly leading large lectures in the front of and I was being taught in a small group setting by graduate student teaching assistants. And that's just the nature of education at larger institutions. And that's a great fit, as Marina was saying, for some students, and for some students it's not. It might be really important to you to develop a mentoring relationship very intensively with a professor in your field, and to get guidance from that person on a very individual basis where they know you and you know something about them outside of their academic areas of focus as well. So it behooves you to look at that as one aspect of your college search, if that is something that's important to you. For some of my students, it is a very important criteria, and for some it's not. I want to go to class and learn, and I'm going to be in a great environment, so whatever interaction I have with my faculty is fine. And I also see that sometimes families and students will pass over the smaller liberal arts college environment, which can provide really supportive academic and personal growth for students, just because it doesn't fit their idea of what a university should be. And so I do encourage students who think that they might benefit from that kind of an intensive smaller campus environment and smaller class sizes to look at those institutions as well.
Fantastic. So we have these questions rolling in. I wish we had time for all of them tonight, so I think we only have time for a few more. How do you, this one's an interesting one. How do you recommend finding your people when attending college? Open for you both, ladies.
That's a great question. It can come from the most random conversations in your first year hallway, and the cafeteria, in extracurriculars that you're joining. It's usually, in my experience personally and with my students, might not be the first roommate that you're assigned to arbitrarily in your first year of college. You kind of survive your first semester together, and then you're off and finding your own people. And so I think it's a combination of those things. You might find some close connections in some academic courses that you're taking, but mostly it comes from a shared, in my experience, in my students' experience, it comes from a shared interest, extracurricular, academic, or just something fun that you both enjoy doing and you find out about over some random conversations.
And I'll just add, again, like the open-mindedness here is very helpful. Just because you were friends with a certain type of person in high school does not mean that that has to be your path moving forward. I actually think back to the friends that I stay most in touch with from college or grad school, and there are people that my first impression of them was like not necessarily the best, but then I kind of just like grew to love them so much. So just be open-minded about that stuff. Just try to meet new people. Try to meet them more than once. You know, you can't like get everything about a person in the first 10 seconds. So definitely try to connect, learn about others, ask questions, be a good listener.
Fantastic. Okay, let's keep going. What strategy would you advise to shortlist for an undecided major student? Again, opening it up to both of you.
I don't know that we have a one-size-fits-all strategy. We get to know our students very intensively in our work, and then are able to craft some suggestions that work for that individual student. I do think that as you're looking, again, in that undecided area where you're still exploring things, that there's a lot that you can do during your high school years to narrow down a little bit in terms of some general broad categories that you're interested in studying. And then you do want to make sure that there are options available to you in those fields at the institutions that you're shortlisting.
Let's keep going. Okay. So some of these questions are more so about the college application process, which is a little bit, it's sort of off topic in regards to tonight's conversation, but we do have a ton of resources available online, including another webinar all about this particular topic. So I do encourage everyone to go in there and check it out. I think it'll be very, very helpful. And it actually covers a lot of these questions, which is fantastic. Let's keep going. I think we have time for one more. Let's go in here. So this one is sort of dual-ended, but I'd love to sort of end it on the second part of Sophia's question on what do colleges enjoy or find intriguing in college applications? Open to both of you.
I'll start, but I know that you'll have like so much more color to add to this. I think this is very, it depends. There's not like one clear formula for what they find intriguing. But I think one thing that can get you there is having that self-awareness, looking back at the things that you've done, what you've learned, and being able to share that in a clear and compelling way that connects to kind of what you foresee the future looking like. I think sometimes it can be, interesting to speak to, if you can kind of portray what is very unique about your own experiences, that can be very helpful. I almost want to answer this in like the what do they not find intriguing kind of way. Like and you'll kind of learn about this through the process, but there are certain essays that everybody writes. there are certain topics that are a little bit overdone, that are experiences that many high school students go through. And so they get written about and written about again, written about again. And those can be maybe underwhelming for the admissions committee. Although if in some way you can make one that is really stand out, that can be like another way to stand out, right? But it's hard to accomplish that. So you really want to think about what are things that make you uniquely you, what are things that you've experienced that maybe it's unlikely that someone else has, or a perspective that you have that's unlikely. Thinking about kind of like your values and maybe where they might be surprising, or one piece of your identity may be kind of in contradiction, or there might be some tension with another. Those kinds of things can be helpful, but it really depends. I'm gonna pass it over.
And one area that I would suggest also, Sophia, since you're in 9th grade, is that you want to spend your summers doing things that are qualitatively different from what you do during the academic year. I think that a lot of times students feel pressure to take a lot of courses in the summer, and you've been taking courses all academic year. And admissions officers might not be wowed by a whole list of courses that you did in your summers. It's great to use the opportunities that you have to explore other kinds of learning, however that works for you, and kind of some passion projects, some areas of research that are intriguing to you. I know that you're interested in doing that, and there are a variety of programs that can support you. Your counselors can help you in those directions. We here at Quad can help you identify those goals and strategies. But just think in general, what can I do with my time away from school that's different qualitatively from what I'm doing during the school year?
Amazing. Thank you both very much. I see we have a ton of other questions coming in, but unfortunately we won't be able to get back to everyone tonight. I do encourage everyone to reach out if you have more questions via email, or feel free to book a one-on-one consultation where you'll be able to actually sit down with one of our counselors and do a further deep dive, including getting some of these wonderful questions answered. To our panelists, thank you very much for your time. This has been incredibly informative. And to our wonderful audience, thank you for taking the time to be with us the last hour, well, almost hour. And thank you for being so attentive. And we hope that we've eased this topic for you and provided value. So thank you very much, everyone.